Hi there, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Shockley, a teacher at Blades Elementary School. I'm going to be doing your math lesson today for Module 6, Lesson 7. So the objective for the lesson today is to count and write numbers to 120. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is our 120 chart. This chart is a little bit different than the one that you're used to seeing. So the one that you've seen in the classroom and the one that was just sent home recently starts at the top and it counts going across the top row, and when it gets to the end it moves to the second row and goes across. This one is a little different because it still starts at that top box, but instead of going across the top, it starts at the top and goes down and counts. And when it gets to the bottom of the chart, we start back at the top and go back down the chart. So you're going to notice here that this chart is filled in from numbers 1 all the way to 77. But we have a lot of empty boxes over here. So I want you guys to help me figure out what numbers would come after 77, and we're going to keep counting until we fill up the empty spaces. So I want you to take a minute and take a look at the chart and think to yourself, if you're at 77, what number would come next? So we're going to put 77 in our head, and then we're going to keep counting. So let me grab my pen here, and I'm going to be filling in these numbers as you count with me at home. So I'm going to say 77, 78, 79, 80. Since I've gotten to the bottom of the chart, I'm going to go up to the top. So now I'm going to think what comes after 80. So I'm just going to keep counting. Ready? 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90. All right, you're doing a great job. Let's keep counting. So now we're going to put 90 in our head and keep going. Ready? Start at the top. 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100. So if you look now, we still have some empty spaces. So we're going to be writing numbers that are bigger than 100. So when you write numbers that are greater than 100, you're always going to start with the 1 in the 100s place. And then the number in the middle is the number in the tens place. We don't have any tens yet because it's like we're starting over. So if you look over at this number over here, we don't have any tens here either. So we just have ones. So when we write our numbers greater than 100, we're going to put a 0 in the tens place because there are none. And then we're going to start counting again, just like we would if we were starting at 1. So now it's 100, 1, 100, we're going to put that 0 again, 2, 100, 3, 100, 4, 100, 5, 106, 107, 108, 109. And now it's going to be a little different when we get to 110, because you heard me just say the word 10. So now I know that I have tens now instead of 0 tens and just ones. So when I write the number 110, I'm still going to put my 1 in my hundreds place. Now I have one group of 10, so there's going to be a 1 in the middle where the tens place would be. And then for this number, there's a 0 in the ones place when I write the number 10. So I have 110. I'm going to keep counting. We have one row left. So after the number 10, just like over here, I notice that the next number is 11. So the only difference in this number is that I'm going to put my 1 first in the 100s place, and then I will write my number 11. So 111. And I'm going to keep counting. 112. 113. 114. 115. 116, 117, 118, 119, and I finally made it to 120. Now it's going to look a little different. I'm still going to put my 1 for the 100s place. And now I have 2 tens, just like in the number 20. I know there's 2 tens and 0 ones. So I have 120, okay? So if you take a look here, let me grab my highlighter. And we're gonna look at the first 2 columns. So we're gonna look at column 1 and column 2. And we're going to look at the last 2 columns that we just did where you helped me fill in those numbers. So all of the numbers that are greater than 100. So if you look at the first 2 columns and you look at the last 2 columns, you're going to notice that most of those numbers have the same digits. So if we look at the first column where we just have a 1 number in the ones place, so it's a 1-digit number. When I move over to numbers greater than 100, you're going to notice that you see the same numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then when you see a 0, that means you've moved to the next set of 10. The number in the tens place all the way down in this column is a 0 because we have 0 tens until we get to that last number. And then we have one group of 10. And then the number in the hundreds place is going to stay the same. It is going to be a 1 because all of these numbers are in the 100s. That number will not change until you get to 200, which you won't be doing those higher numbers until you get to 2nd grade. So we're going to be looking at numbers just in the 100s for now. So what other patterns do you notice here? I want you to think for a second and look at what other numbers or patterns do you notice in this vertical hundreds chart. Think for a second, and I want you to tell someone that you're sitting next to, what do you notice? Okay, I'm sure some of you noticed some of the patterns that I noticed. I noticed that now, when I go across the 120 chart, I'm no longer counting by ones like I would on our regular hundreds chart. I'm now adding 10. So I'm starting at 1, and if I add 10, I'm now at 11, 21, 31, 41, 51, 61, 71, 81, 91, 101, 111. And it's also important when you get to numbers that are greater than 100 to not use the word and. So we don't want to say 101. We just say 101. We don't want to say 111. We say 111. Some of you may have also noticed that on this 120 chart, as we go down, the number in the tens place stays the same. So you can see that there's one group of 10 until we get to the last number and we move to our second group of 10, which would now be 20. So the next column, as we go down, all of the numbers have a 2 in the tens place until we get down all the way to the bottom and we move to the 30s. When we get to the 30s and we move to the next column, all of the numbers in the tens place have a 3 now. If you look at the ones place in all of these columns, the numbers increase by 1 every time you move down. So it's a little bit different. You've been working with 10 more, 10 less, 1 more, and 1 less. This chart is different because as you go across, it's counting by tens, and as you go down, it's adding 1. As you go up, it's subtracting 1. As you go backwards, it's taking 10 away. As you go forward, it's adding 10. So you have to pay attention to what 120 chart you're looking at. Are you looking at the one like this, which is the vertical hundreds chart? Or are you looking at the other hundreds chart that was sent home or that you've seen in school? Because they look very different. A lot of the patterns are the same. The numbers are the same, they're just written a little bit different in this chart with which box they would go in. So now that you have the chart completed, you are ready to do your questions. So for your questions today, you are going to be looking at sequencing numbers and looking at patterns. So use your 120 chart to help you decide if the numbers are going in the correct sequence or if they're not in the correct sequence. This chart will also help you fill in missing numbers on your paper. So thank you. I hope this helped you with the 120 chart, and I hope you have a fabulous day.